mine.
Hello again, and welcome to episode 3 of my GoW3 gameplay series. This video starts off just as myself and Tony started, joining a King of the Hill game already in progress on Aftermath. I do get a nice, and very rare for me, sniper headshot kill at the start of the game, but there's nothing we can do to come back to win. However, we do get a proper match in the next game on Gridlock since everyone stays, and after a slow start we managed to pull off a decent little comeback. I'll leave you to watch to see how it all ends though. I'll also be trying out a new way to show you games, by cutting out some of the less interesting bits to save on time. This might only be in one round or the whole game, but let me know what you think about it after you've watched it. Now this game actually took place quite a bit later than the one you saw in the last video, and future videos will show some gameplay from an earlier time than this. However, I chose to use this match as there is a certain section of Lancer support play from me, which is kind of a continuation of my last playstyle video. The only thing really missing from that previous video in terms of showing how I play was a bit of support work, so I'm showing it here whilst it's all still fresh in the mind. I just wanted to let you know about that in case you were wondering why my level jumps up and down from video to video. Most of the time I'll be putting up videos in the order in which they happened. So today I'd like to talk mainly about how I improved on Gears of War 3. However, I will also go over that little bit of support play I mentioned when it comes up, and introduce a new Gears series that you'll be seeing very soon. So when I first picked up Gears 3, the first thing I did was play the campaign, as I had done with every other Gears game. Then I played a few multiplayer games with Tony and a few others, and just like previous Gears games, I was terrible. I mostly used the sword off in those very early days just to get some kills. It was a sorry state of affairs. However, Tony persuaded me to start using the Gnasher, with the logical argument that if you want to get more than just a few kills and actually get decent at Gears, the Gnasher was the way to go. So I started to play with the Gnasher and was lucky to get even a few kills. However, since my friends were all playing Gears online, I was just naturally doing it too. And that brings me round to my first tip when it comes to improving in Gears of War, or on anything really: just do it. The more you play, the better you get. Now this isn't an exact science, as I've seen level 400 players who are pretty bad, but they're certainly better than the average player, and that just comes from playing the game so much. So just by playing the game with friends multiple nights a week, I improved from absolutely god-awful to just plain bad. I was still terrible, but at least I wasn't as terrible as I had been. I also tended to get my enjoyment from the campaign and horde mode just as much as versus in those early days, so I certainly wasn't just playing say King of the Hill all the time. And when Forza 4 came out, I gave Gears a bit of a break, but after getting bored with that game pretty quickly, I found myself joining in with my friends once more on Gears, this time playing a lot more multiplayer as I'd done everything there was to do on the other game modes. However, I began to get frustrated with not being very good, and I started to get into watching Gears of War videos on YouTube. Now before this, I hardly ever watched videos on YouTube really, and I wasn't subscribed to anyone who I watched regularly. But when I came across Arctic's channel, and honestly I can't remember how I did, I really enjoyed the content he was putting out, and felt I could learn a lot from what he had to say. He became the very first Gears of War YouTube commentator I subscribed to. I'll put a link to his channel in the description, as well as links to every other person I mentioned in this little section. So, Spev came next in terms of Gears commentators I subbed to, and I found him from a tips and tricks video that he made. Because after seeing Arctic's videos, I was starting to get more involved with Gears 3, and wanted to get even better, so started actively searching for tips videos. And after finding them, I'd also look at other content from the same person to see if I wanted to subscribe. I learned a lot from Arctic and Spev just by watching them play and listening to how they talked about the game, but I have to say that my biggest improvement came from watching Video Fletcher. He does a series called Play Smarter, and honestly I've not come across a better series of videos to improve your overall performance on Gears 3. I think he mentioned in one of his videos that it's important to know what your playstyle is so you can make the best decisions for you and your team. and I think that's when I started to really try multiple different styles of play to see which I preferred. From rushing with the Gnasher to whoring power weapons, I think I tried it all, until I finally settled on being a support player. That's when I began to actually start doing things that were worthy to the team. I was learning so much about tactics on gears from Arctic and Video Fletcher, and that was blending very nicely with my support play to actually influence games in our favour. So basically, tip number 2 is to watch other people play. Learn from YouTube videos, and don't just watch solely for entertainment. Actually listen to what's being said and try new things out. I think watching the videos of YouTube commentators was the thing that gave me the biggest improvement when it comes to my ability on the game. But that's not everything. My third tip is that you also have to listen to what your friends or teammates are saying. As I was doing my support player thing, Tony once mentioned that he thought I was a little too passive with it. He thought that I could still be supporting but in a more aggressive way. Now I wasn't going to just dismiss what he said, since he'd been playing the game since Gears 1, so I decided to give it a try. It turned out that by being a little bit more aggressive in my positions when putting down support fire, I was even more effective. So it's worth trying out the suggestions of your teammates, especially if they're more experienced than you are. However, there was still one main problem with my game, the Gnasher. Even after all this time, I still wasn't very good with the Gnasher at all, and once I was comfortable with how my support player was, I decided it was time to incorporate that into my game too. I wanted to be able to hold down a position using support fire, as well as defend it if people got too close using the Gnasher. So I just focused on that. I put support play on the shelf for a while and started rushing with the Gnasher, trying to incorporate the many tips I'd learned from watching plenty of YouTube videos on the subject. A great tip from Arctic was to get into King of the Hill matches, where your deaths don't really matter and it's very close quarters fighting, to work on your Gnasher. I did that and I quickly improved. I then started to incorporate some wall bouncing into my play, and the final thing I got down was a bit of strafing. Given my playstyle, I didn't need to be a master at any of these things, but I worked hard on them to become competent enough to be able to do work for my team when it was needed. So therefore my fourth tip would be to analyse your own play and figure out where you're weak, then put more effort into improving that area. Don't try to do everything at once, just focus on a certain thing, and once you've got that sorted, move on to something else. I'm still improving all the time even now, and I wouldn't really want it any other way. So that's pretty much the full story about how I went from a nobody on Gears 3 to a reasonably competent player who can actually have a positive impact on a team. I really wish I'd been recording since I started playing, as it would be amazing to see how I've changed and see the improvements I've made, but you just have to take my word for it that I was god awful in the early days. And just about now we're getting to that support play clip I was talking about before. As you can see, I spawn in, and whilst the rest of my team immediately run over to the next hill, I stay in a high up position to start giving some support fire. I stopped that guy from pre-activating his shotgun and managed to delay their team from capping the hill for a good 5 points. I then managed to get a kill and 2 downs, both of which are finished off by someone else, and my team are able to take back the hill with 55 points still remaining, and everyone still alive to defend it. Now I'm constantly looking over a boom shot and notice an opponent pick it up. Obviously this guy is now my priority, and I make sure to put as much damage into him as possible. In fact, I do end up killing him, and that's a key moment, because if I wasn't up in this position doing that, he could have taken 3 immensely powerful shots over to the hill and retaken it for their team. Instead though, I'm killing and putting damage into anything that's blue, and effectively stopping them from getting into the hill at all. Now they only managed to get there when I ran out of ammo at the very last second, and they stopped the clock with 1 point to go. At this point though, the game is pretty much already over. So that's just a little clip I enjoyed at the time because I felt I did some really good support work which helped us get the majority of points from the hill and get so close to getting that win. I mentioned in my last video that my priority is always the hill, and if I'm not in it as the last line of defense, I'll be around it defending it in other ways. that's what I was doing right there. So I'd just like to finish this commentary by saying that the next video you'll see will be a Gears of War video from a new series I'm doing called The Kill Feed. Basically, these will be shorter videos just showing some highlights of a certain session of Gears. When I feel that I've got some decent kills in a night of playing Gears, but can't really use the whole game as a commentary for whatever reason, I may use the footage in one of these kill feed videos. They aren't montages though, and I certainly don't play for clips. The videos are basically just interesting events from a night of Gears that may be fun to watch, and they'll be put up in the same way as my Horizon videos, which by that I mean when I feel like it or if I have enough footage for one. There won't really be a set pattern. But feel free to give me your feedback when the first one comes out in 3 days' time. Also, let me know how you improved on Gears, who else you watch on YouTube, and if you have any recommendations or tips, be sure to put them in the comments section. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.